Hey guys, this is Vanessa Vlahakis, and I am here to talk to you today about soul lessons and relationship contracts. Pretty big stuff. My background is I'm a mental health counselor. I primarily focus in trauma healing, and I'm also a psychic medium, and I am a Reiki master, and I do channeling, and I work with the chakras a lot, and I do a lot of past life work. So I have a lot of interesting experience exploring deeper levels of healing for my clients. So I began as a trauma therapist. And basically what I started out doing was present life trauma, and I would bring in the energy healing and the Reiki as I was doing the therapy. And what I started to find was that present life trauma had much deeper roots than just this life. And I started to see that my clients would have long, long histories and patterns of trauma from life to life to life that they would bring forward and replicate in this life because there was wounding that hadn't been healed from other lives. So that caused me to start exploring the concept of deeper soul lessons that we're here to learn life to life. And this is predicated on the idea that we do come back over and over. And the idea is that our higher self on the other side, our oversoul, if you want to call it, is whole and divine and perfect and wise and wonderful and everything that we wish we were here. But it'll send facets down over and over for different incarnations to try living here, to get used to what the 3D life is like. What is life like in this dimension with all of its struggles and pitfalls and also all of its joys? It's a very unique way of living. If you think about the idea that there are so many different dimensions out there that our souls play in, the 3D concrete dimension in this world it's a very unique set of challenges, but also a unique set of joys. And so the idea is that we do come back over and over, and each of us is working on a handful of really important soul lessons for our soul. And they are usually related to the chakras and what the chakras represent. So a lot of people are here to work on their heart chakra. That I see that all the time, or their root chakra. And I'll go through each one and explain a little bit more about what the soul lessons are for each chakra. But we each have kind of our little group of lessons that we're trying to learn. And we do it over and over in different lives. And the problem is that because history hasn't been that kind and humanity hasn't been that great sometimes, we end up accruing wounds around those lessons. And those wounds get carried forward from life to life to life if they're not healed. And so what I started to see is that my clients would come in with a present life trauma or a pattern of present life trauma. And when we would get in on a spiritual level, we would start to see that this stretched way back. This was like a very deep, long soul struggle that they had been going through that had all come forward into this life. So, and the reason this happens is that this is really the life for us to clear all of this out. It's just time to clean the slate. It's come through to me over and over that humanity is being asked to finally purge and release a huge amount of past life trauma that we're all hanging on to, deep soul wounds, dysfunctional ways of thinking, dysfunctional ways of behaving and relating to one another, and all of that. It's just time to go because we need to raise our vibration. This is a time that humanity is here to evolve, and it's really, that's why there are so many light workers and healers incarnated right now, more than ever before. And if you're watching this video, you're one, whatever label you choose to identify with. You are all healers and light workers, and you're all really needed. So everybody's incarnated with so much light to bring the world, but we also have all this heavy trauma energy from past lives and this present life that's weighing us down and blocking a lot of people from fully serving and fully offering the light the way that they kind of intuitively know they're supposed to. So all of my clients are usually very intuitive, very connected, on some level know that they are some sort of healer, light worker. They're drawn to some sort of healing art. And this can be either personally or professionally. It doesn't have to be that you're actively giving readings or doing energy work. Like I work with nurses, I work with teachers, I work with all kinds of people, but they know on a soul level they're here to raise the vibration. That's what matters. The problem is that they also come with a lot of trauma and a lot of childhood trauma. And so once we dive into that, we find out that this is just basically the tip of the iceberg on some deeper soul trauma that people have brought forward, that all of us have brought forward, especially light workers. We're carrying a lot of wounding from other lives. So basically, the first thing I want to share is that if you do have a lot of trauma, even if you can't identify typical, like I had physical abuse as a child or I had emotional abuse as a child, even if it doesn't fall into a category, you probably can go through your life and see patterns of dysfunction or patterns of wounding and things that have stuck with you that really haven't been healed. So if you have that, the message I want to share is that this probably extends that back many, many lives, and it's probably tied to some deep soul lessons that your soul is trying to work on. So now comes the fun part. It's deciphering, what are my soul lessons and what am I trying to learn life to life, and why do things happen the way they do in this life. So when we incarnate, it kind of helps to get a much bigger picture. When we choose to incarnate, when we're over there and we're like, okay, it's time to go back. We didn't learn so much last time. We didn't do so well on our lessons. We need to come back into the world and try again. What people often don't realize is that our higher selves, along with our guides and angels and other ascended masters and wise beings, we set up everything that's going to happen in the life that we're going to incarnate into. And the way that we do that is we kind of create a blueprint with all major plot points of like, I want to learn this, I want to meet this person, I want to accomplish this. These are kind of my big goals. And then there's a lot of kind of wiggle room between the major plot points because free will comes into play once we're here. And so there are many, many different paths to get to the same goal. So that's why we leave a lot of kind of open space between each major plot point. But what people also don't realize is that we do choose everything. We choose our appearances, our physical bodies, we choose our families, we choose our socioeconomic status, we choose our education or lack thereof, we choose what profession we're going to be nudged toward. We really do set up all the major points because they're designed to help us learn certain lessons for our highest good. So this is hard for people who've incarnated with, say, a physical disability or some sort of chronic, like say chronic depression. Like, why would I incarnate with that? Well, the bigger picture is to see what you've incarnated with and then get underneath to find out what does that represent on a soul level. So depression is a really good example because I work with depression and anxiety all the time with my clients, and I myself am prone to depression as well. So for me, I will give the example that it took a while for me to figure out, but the depression comes when I feel disempowered, when I feel like I have no control or no power in whatever situation it is. And that's when I just kind of shut down and feel depressed. And so once I got underneath that and realized that it was about empowerment or lack thereof, that is a soul lesson of mine. A very deep soul lesson of mine is finding my power, finding my worth, feeling that I matter and that my voice matters. So when all of that gets shut down, my depression kicks in. Now, because I understand this, I haven't been depressed for many, many, many years, but it took a while for me to understand that there are much deeper soul lessons tied to something that I struggled with for a long time. Anyway, so what I want to do, there's so much information to give you guys, and I want to make sure I'm giving it all, so I have notes. Okay, so I want to tell you guys, I want to share with you guys what I've come to understand about the soul lessons, because I think this will help you all realize what you can do is start looking at deeper patterns in your life. And this can be relationship patterns, it can be patterns around abundance or lack thereof, it can be patterns around how you deal with authority, or I mean, it could be anything. You can tie anything back to a soul lesson that your soul's trying to learn. And for me, the way that I decipher it, the way that my mind thinks and the language I work best with is through the chakras, because those are very symbolic. They're symbolic psychologically, energetically, emotionally. Like this is the language of this. For me, this is where psychology and energy intertwine, and spirituality. So this is how I think. So what I wanted to share are the soul lessons for each chakra, to see if maybe you guys can start identifying lessons that you think your soul might have been working on from life to life. So we'll start with the root. This is very fun. This is super fundamental for being human. This is really about your basic right to be here, to belong, to be accepted, to feel safe, to have all your basic needs met. It's a lot about psychological safety, physical safety, emotional safety in every way, security, stability, grounding, having a solid foundation. So this is the root is really being connected to the earth, connected to your physical body, and feeling like you belong here, and that you're safe, and that your needs will be met, and that you will be accepted for who you are. So basically self-preservation on all levels. So it's very fundamental. I get a lot of clients with a lot of wounds around this chakra. And that comes from other lives where we weren't safe. And we got persecuted mostly for doing this work, for doing spiritual work. We hold a lot of those persecution wounds within our soul. And it can come forward into this life. Most often through dysfunctional families or abusive families, family situations. That's pretty much how we, in this time period, feel unsafe in this society. There aren't witch burnings anymore, thank God. But as children, I don't know one light worker that hasn't incarnated with some sort of a dysfunctional family history or some sort of childhood trauma. So that's very root chakra based. So it's good to kind of identify that. Sacral chakra, that's the next one up, that's orange. I'm sorry, the root was red. Sacral is orange. This one is the next level up. So once all your basic needs have been met and you feel really safe and you have a fairly firm foundation, this one is about your right to explore and experience the world through your senses, through your five senses, although we know we have six, right, because we're all intuitive. It's about healthy emotional flow and regulation. It's about balance in all areas of your life. So balancing spiritual stuff with 3D stuff, balancing your mind, body, and spirit, making sure that you are not going too far, either escaping into spirit stuff and ignoring your 3D lessons, or too stuck here and not opening up to allow spirit to flow through. So it's a lot about balance in all directions. And it's also about really being able to access and express your creativity in a healthy way that feels really enriching to you. So the sacral is a lot about flow. And so I get lots of clients where that's kind of blocked. And it is also, I work primarily with women, and it's also the seat of your divine feminine energy. So if you have sexual trauma wounds, if you have sexual abuse or any sort of inappropriate stuff that you had to deal with growing up or even as an adult, that all sits in the sacral as well, and so that can shut that down as well. And so it's a lot about boundaries and intimacy and healthy sexuality and all of that. So that's the sacral chakra, and these are all very deep soul lessons that I think many of us are working on in this time period. The solar plexus, that's the yellow one that sits right on your belly. This one, I get tons of, so many clients with wounding around this. This is so common because this is the seat of your soul. This is the seat of your personal identity, your worth, your empowerment, feeling really empowered, feeling autonomous and free, and not feeling below anyone, but feeling equal and respected and honored. And I always grab my belly because this is really like you put your hand here and you feel the power and the worth and the strength that you are as a soul, as a divine soul. And so obviously because of past life trauma, again, mostly around persecution. There's a lot, so many light workers in this life have so much persecution from past lives. We have a lot of wounding in our solar plexus because there was abuse of authority in those different time periods. Abuse of authority from religion, from politics, the patriarchy. Just all kinds of wounding can sit in this chakra where, say you incarnated in a time period where you wanted to really bring your healing gifts to the world, and it went against the church of the time or the authority of the time, and then you got shut down for it, and you got persecuted and possibly killed, possibly tortured or imprisoned. And these are very deep, long soul patterns for healers. So a lot of wounding can sit in the solar plexus around this. And then this can carry forward into this life where people, primarily how I see it is, or how it comes through for me, for my clients, is they don't trust their gifts. They don't trust them. They don't feel safe with them. They kind of feel they're afraid people will judge them, or they're afraid that they're not fully connecting, or that they are maybe doing something wrong by connecting. There's just a lot of wounding that can sit in the solar plexus around trusting yourself and feeling worthy and feeling empowered, especially with your gifts, if you have intuitive gifts that you haven't been allowed to explore or that you're just starting to learn about. Okay, the heart. This is another huge one that I work with. Oh my goodness, all of humanity has heart chakra wounds, very deep soul lessons around this. The main one is the ability to give and receive unconditional love. And people usually, they associate the heart chakra with relationships. Well, it is about that, but it's also, and a lot of people don't realize, it's about unconditional love for yourself. And that is the biggest wound I see. People come in and they don't have that full connection to themselves. They don't love themselves unconditionally. There's judgment, there's shame, there's self-hatred, they pick on themselves, they're hard on themselves. There's no forgiveness for mistakes. There's a lot of wounding that people can carry in the heart around that. So it is definitely about healthy relations with others and healthy connection, not just romantic, but all relations. And the ability to have healthy intimacy and empathy and compassion and all of that and forgiveness. But the biggest one, like I said, is truly loving yourself, like truly on a soul level, having full unconditional love for yourself as a soul. That's one of the biggest wounds I see, soul wounds that I see people coming in to work on. And it's also the ability to hold hope and joy and positivity. And if you come from a life of trauma, that's really hard. It's hard to do. So part of the work that I do with clients is to help clear out some of that trauma energy so that you can start to foster that hope and that joy and that kind of light that we're meant to have being here, but it gets buried with, when things go wrong. It's also about grief. The heart holds a lot of grief. So if you've had severe loss or a series of losses, a long pattern of loss, this is about the ability to process grief in a healthy way. A lot of people don't know how to do that, or they haven't been taught how to do that. And so I get people full of grief that have just shoved it down and just don't want to deal with it. And that can cause a lot of blockage in the heart. So that's another big thing that I work with, is purging grief, really working through it, allowing it to flow out. Okay, I'm going through these very quickly because these are very in-depth and I teach whole classes on these, but I'm trying to get this all done in about 20 minutes. So yes, this is really quick, just little samples of soul lessons for each chakra. So we're going to move up to the throat. This one is definitely about healthy and balanced communication. And it's communication on all levels. So mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, connecting with yourself, connecting with others, communicating to spirit. It's about, a big one that I see is about being able to set clear and firm verbal boundaries and energetic boundaries, because a lot of people that I get, a lot of light workers have boundary issues. It comes from, I think, knowing that you're here to serve and heal and help, and not knowing when to set the boundary so that other people don't take advantage of that. And also, if you have a childhood of dysfunctional parents or dysfunctional families that kind of take advantage of that, boundaries can get blurred, and you can really lose your ability to set your own boundaries, what's appropriate for you, what feels right. And so this is also about speaking your truth. The throat is so much about speaking your truth, and light workers have so many wounds around that, again, from other lives of being persecuted when they've tried to speak out. I have clients who in other lives incarnated a little ahead of their time. Like, they had really wonderful spirit ideas. They were channeling, they were bringing things through, but they were completely silenced by the authority of the day or the religion of the day. And so they're carrying a lot of throat blockages because of that. And so this life, it's hard for them to speak up. It's hard for them to trust their gifts and share the gifts with others, because their soul has a lot of memories from past lives. So I work with the throat a lot with my clients, with light workers. It's also about being able to fully and healthily express your thoughts and your needs, your dreams, your hopes, your beliefs, all your fears, all your wounds, like being able to share all of it without judgment, without being closed down, without being shamed for it, without being disregarded. A lot of light workers have wounding around being gaslit to be there. They've been gaslit to believe that somehow they're wrong in what they're saying or what they're feeling or what they're thinking or how they're working with others. And this comes from other lives. And so I get a lot of light workers who are just even afraid to speak up for their own needs in this life, because there's just so much wounding around that. So throat is really big to clear out. Third eye. Okay, so we all know third eye is helping you connect to spirit. But it's basically the right to see on all levels, to see clearly, to receive information clearly, and to understand it and trust it. It's about trusting your intuition, your inner knowing, feeling safe doing so. That again goes back to the root. So these are all tied together, even though I'm breaking them down. Everything, it's all one big flow. So if you have wounding in one, it's connected to wounding in others, and they're all interrelated. So, excuse me. The third eye is about the right to use your spiritual gifts and your connection, and knowing that you incarnated with your gifts for a reason. You incarnated with your light for a reason, and you're not supposed to be silencing it, and you're not supposed to be shutting it down or hiding it. That's not why we came here. We came here to lift the vibration, to shift out all the old stuff that doesn't belong here anymore, and to raise all of humanity to a higher level. So if you have gifts, even if you don't know how to use them, or you're really not sure what they are yet, but you kind of have a knowing that there's something there, you have a right to honor that, and to explore them, and to cherish them, and then to express them. So that's the third eye. The last one is the crown chakra. Now, I see wounding in the crown chakra. This is about being connected to all. This is connecting you to the universe. This is connecting you to all of humanity, to the earth, to all of spirit. It's connection to all. And the wounding that I see in this crown chakra is around people not feeling that they can trust the universe, or that they're going to be taken care of by the universe. There's a lot of fear, so much fear. Fear shuts down all the chakras. But there's fear around kind of being in the flow and allowing the universe to take you where you're supposed to be, or send you nudges here and there. There's so much fear that can block that. And then people they live in fight or flight mode, the trauma mode of like, I'll take care of it myself. Nobody else is going to take care of me. I'll do it myself. And that can only serve you for so long. And then you're kind of shutting everything down, and you're not allowing the universe to guide you and to help you, and to get you aligned with the path that you're supposed to be on, so you can help others. So I do a lot of clearing of the crown chakra, because a lot of light workers have wounds around that from other lives where, again, they were harmed or persecuted, and then their soul in that time was like, why didn't the universe protect me? I'm here to do spirit work. Why wasn't I protected? So there's a lot of wounding around that. It's also the right to pure soul level autonomy. So one of the most important things I teach my clients, and I teach a lot of classes as well as do one-on-one work. So I have classes around mediumship, beginning mediumship, developing these gifts, and learning how you work as an intuitive. But the biggest thing I teach is that you need to have the right. You have the right, but you need to understand that you have the right to fully discern what resonates for you and what doesn't. And this is especially for light workers in terms of teachers, books, classes, healing modalities, belief systems, all of the spiritual stuff that you see now, and there's a lot of it out there. Some of it is going to resonate with you, and some of it's going to feel kind of weird. So what's really important for your soul is to try, and this also goes back to the heart. That's why my hands kind of do their own thing when I'm teaching, but so they're telling me to go to the heart for this. To drop into your heart when you're doing research, when you're learning to develop your gifts, when you're learning to open up and explore, what do you have, what's going on, how do I develop these, what kinds of modalities do I want to study, what teachers resonate with me. Drop into your heart and see what resonates for you, because there is absolutely no one right way to do any of this. And a lot of light workers that I work with have wounding around that, where from past lives where they were taught, this is the only way to learn this or to do this. And so they've lost the ability to kind of trust themselves and discern in their heart, does this feel right for me? Is this the soul path that I'm meant to go on in this life? So it's really important to honor that, because we are all sovereign souls. We are all divine souls, and we all have inherent power and worth and light and the ability to know what's right for us. But a lot of past life and present life trauma and wounding can just kind of dampen that down, so that we've kind of lost the ability to trust ourselves. And that's the self-trust sits in your solar plexus, but it, as I just said, it can go through all the chakras. So that is the crown chakra. Very quick snapshot of the chakras. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is relationship contracts, and this is very much tied to soul lessons. So going back to when you're on the other side and you're thinking, okay, you know what, that is time to go back. I got to go back in. When you're setting everything up and you're designing, who am I going to be in this next life? Who's my family? All of this stuff. part of what we do is we set up relationship contracts or soul contracts with all the other souls in our life. So we travel from life to life in very big soul groups, and we tend to incarnate over and over with the same groups of people, and they can be really huge groups, and then they can be, I see them as concentric circles of intimacy. So you can have souls that you really very often incarnate as family members with, and then you kind of move out from there. So basically the idea is that the souls that you can learn the most from, even if it's the most painful, you're going to have some pretty intense relationship contracts with them. That means they're probably going to be somebody like a parent or a sibling or a husband or wife, a partner or a child. It's going to be someone very close to you, very intimate. It could be like a boss or an authority figure as well, but it's going to be somebody who really is in your life, sometimes very positively and sometimes to push buttons. So it just depends on how you're going to learn. But relationship contracts are fascinating because they are set up for the highest good of both parties. So even if it's an imbalance, say it's I'm trying to think of an example, a woman who incarnates with a father who's really abusive, like kind of controlling and authoritarian, even though it feels like the father has the power, there are two sides to this relationship contract. Hers is to learn her power, learn her worth, learn to speak up for herself, learn to defend herself, and learn to honor and respect herself fully and realize that she is equal even though she doesn't feel equal. His side of the lesson is that he's here on a soul level to learn, how do I have power with compassion? How do I have it with love and respect and equality? So even though he's incarnated perhaps and is abusing his power, on a soul level, the bigger goal was for him to kind of learn how to have compassion. Now, whether or not he does this, that's kind of up to his soul, but at least she knows that from her perspective, she just needs to work on her part of the lesson, which is, finding her worth, finding her power, using her voice, and feeling safe. So this is how I work with my clients when they have, like I said, they come in with a lot of trauma. So I help them work through their connections with people who haven't treated them well, whether that's family members or partners or bosses or whoever it is. And it's understanding the deeper soul contract around that and why it's been so painful and difficult and what were they both supposed to learn from it. And even though we're not in control of the other person's soul lessons, if we know our soul lessons, we can then do our healing, our part of the healing. And what I found with that is that even if the other person never knows what if it's somebody that you can't talk to about this stuff, when you do your healing part of it and you realize your deeper soul lessons and you're working on those, it can actually shifts your vibration so that it shifts the vibration of the actual relationship. And in a lot of cases, I've seen clients where they've had, say, dysfunctional relationships with their parents or with their partners or somebody, and they do their work, and then they come in and they're like, yeah, he or she is acting differently now, or something has changed and I don't know what it is. That's because the client has shifted her vibration. She's healing. She's working to raise her vibration, clear out the trauma energy, heal the old wounds, and step into her power and her light. And when you do that, it ripples out and it changes relationships. All around you change. So this is why often you'll read that when somebody is awakening into their soul path or their spiritual path, they can lose a lot of friends and people in their lives can just fall away. And that's because if their vibration raises and shifts, the vibration that doesn't match is going to just kind of leave. And then you start to attract new levels of vibration. So peers who are on this path with you, who believe this stuff, who want to be nurturing and joyful with you. So if you have past history of trauma with family or present trauma with your partner or anybody in your life, it really helps to dive into the deeper relationship contract around that, because chances are you've had many lives with this person, not always in the same relationship. We switch roles all the time, but you've probably incarnated repeatedly with this soul, with the goal of trying to learn over and over what each of your soul lessons is, and sometimes pushing each other's buttons to do so. So when you get that longer history, it just gives you a bigger picture of why things were tough in this life. So basically, I'm trying to see if I'm running out of time, so I want to make sure I get everything. Okay, so the importance of soul lessons and relationship contracts in general is that it gives you power. It gives you empowerment over your struggles. You no longer are a victim. You're no longer a victim of circumstance, a victim of your family, a victim of the universe. All of that goes away because you understand the much bigger picture of why were things difficult? Why did things go wrong? And what was I supposed to be learning? And what can I still learn? How can I heal? How can I release that trauma? And then when you dive into the past life stuff, that gives even a bigger perspective. And for the relationships, learning the longer history, the soul history of the two of you, that can really open people's eyes, especially if it's an abusive relationship or an unhealthy relationship. You can dive into past life connections with that soul and find out what is the longer pattern, what is the karma you're here to clear out. So basically the idea of this stuff is to just get a much bigger picture of why we're here, why we have the people in our life that we do, and why we have all the experiences that we have. And it really contributes so tremendously to trauma healing. Any level of healing. It doesn't have to be severe trauma. It just contributes to having a bigger picture of you as a soul, what you're here to do. And I will end with, I just want to say again, we are all here to raise the vibration of this world. So you are here with light. You're meant to be full of light and joy and love, and you're meant to share your gifts and heal in whatever way you're drawn to do. If you feel stuck or blocked, that's probably just you have some trauma energy that needs to get cleared out from present life, past life, all of it. And it's probably around soul lessons that your soul's just trying to work on. So hopefully this gives a much bigger perspective of why you're here. And hopefully it motivates you, if you have stuff that you feel stuck around, to kind of do some deeper exploration. I offer one-on-one sessions. I do packages of 3 sessions. And for people watching this, I'm going to do a discount for you guys. I'll do $100 off my normal package package of 3 sessions. And I also teach classes online. And so this is a really crash course. I just took it very briefly from a much longer 8-week course that I've written that I do teach online. And so I'll go so much more into depth in everything that I just said here today. But I just wanted to give a snapshot of the idea of what soul lessons are and what relationship contracts are and why we have them and why we're here, what we're here to learn. So hopefully this all made sense. And I'm trying to think if I think that's all I'm going to do for now, because these are very big topics and it's a lot to get out. So I don't want to overwhelm. I just wanted to give like a nice introduction to soul lessons and relationship contracts. Again, I do packages of 3 sessions. I also do longer term work. Sometimes I work with people every other week for months or years. It depends on what you need and what you're looking for. But please do reach out if you think that you would like to dive into some deeper exploration of what your soul lessons might be and what your deeper patterns are that you're ready to let go, and clear out that little trauma so you can be here to heal and raise the light, because that is what you're here to do. All right, thank you so much for joining me, and I am excited to connect with you guys. Take care. Bye.